What if I told you that right now, somewhere in this world, there's a decomposing body slowly shuffling towards someone who has no idea they're being hunted? Not by a zombie, not by a ghost, but by something far worse. Something that moves only when nobody's watching. Something that gets closer every single time you turn your head away. This happened in a small town in rural Montana, and the victim had no clue until it was standing right outside their bedroom door. In the isolated mountain town of Millfield, Montana, where winter nights stretch endlessly and the nearest neighbor lives 3 miles away, a mortician discovers that some deaths refuse to stay buried. When bodies start moving through the town under cover of darkness, following an ancient pattern that defies all logic, one family becomes the target of a relentless pursuit that grows closer with each passing hour. Marcus Blackwood had been working at Millfield Funeral Home for 12 years, and he thought he'd seen every kind of death the mountain could offer. Heart attacks from the thin air, hunting accidents, the occasional hypothermia case when tourists wandered too far from marked trails. But nothing had prepared him for what he discovered on that November morning when the power went out. The emergency. Generator kicked in with a grinding whir, bathing the basement preparation room in sickly yellow light. That's when he noticed it. The metal examination table was empty. James Crawford, the 67-year-old rancher who'd passed 3 days ago, was gone. Not just missing, there were wet footprints leading from the table to the door, each print showing the distinctive pattern of bare, swollen feet. Marcus's hands trembled as he followed the trail. The prints led upstairs, through the main corridor, and stopped at the front entrance. But here's what made her blood freeze. The door was still locked from the inside. The security system showed no breach. Yet somehow, a dead man had walked out of her funeral home, leaving behind only the smell of formaldehyde and something else. Something rotting and ancient that seemed to seep into the walls themselves. Miles away, the Crawford family was sleeping peacefully in their farmhouse, completely unaware that their deceased patriarch was beginning a journey back to them. The thing that had once been James Crawford stood motionless in the tree line, its clouded eyes fixed on the warm glow of the kitchen window. It would wait until the family looked away, until their attention drifted, until the perfect moment presented itself to take another step closer to home. By morning, confused neighbors would report seeing a figure shambling through the wheat fields. But whenever they looked directly at the spot, nothing was there. The local sheriff would dismiss these reports as grief-induced hallucinations. After all, who would believe that the dead could move only when observed indirectly, like some twisted quantum nightmare made flesh? 3 days passed, and the Crawford family noticed small, inexplicable changes around their property. Garden tools moved from their usual spots. The porch swing creaked at night despite the absence of wind. Their dog, Rex, refused to go outside after sunset, whimpering and pressing himself against the far wall of the living room while staring at the front door with terrified intensity. Emma Crawford, James's daughter-in-law, was the first to see it clearly. She was washing dishes at the kitchen sink when she caught a glimpse of movement in her peripheral vision. There, standing at the edge of their property line, was a figure that looked disturbingly familiar. When she turned to look, directly nothing was there but empty field. Heart pounding, she convinced herself it was just shadows playing tricks. But the figure was indeed there, closer than before. Each time Emma looked away, to grab a dish towel, to check on her sleeping children, to answer her husband's call from the living room, the thing that had been James Crawford shuffled forward another few feet. Its decomposing form moved with mechanical persistence, guided by some primordial magnetism that drew it inexorably toward the warmth of living blood. The breakthrough came when Emma's 8-year-old daughter, Lily, innocently mentioned seeing Grandpa James standing in the yard, but he looks really sick and won't come inside when I wave at him. The child's words sent ice through Emma's veins because James Crawford had been buried 4 days ago, and she'd been at the funeral herself. That night, Emma positioned herself at the living room window with a handheld mirror, using the reflection to watch the yard without looking directly. What she saw defied every rational thought she'd ever held. The shambling figure was now halfway across their property, moving in jerky stop motion whenever she glanced away from the mirror. Its face was partially caved in from decomposition, Yet those familiar eyes held an intelligence that was both recognizably human and utterly wrong. As dawn approached, Emma realized the horrible truth. The thing was learning their patterns, their habits, the rhythm of their attention. It moved faster now, covering more ground each time their guard dropped. And it was heading straight for the house where her children slept, driven by a hunger that death had only made more patient and methodical. The real terror wasn't that James Crawford had returned from the grave. It was that he was getting better at being dead, more efficient at stalking them. And there was nowhere in this isolated mountain town where his family could hide from something that moved only when nobody was looking. If this story sent chills down your spine, smash that like button, because we're just getting started with these nightmare tales. Subscribe and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next in our journey through the darkest corners of human fear. And here's a question that'll keep you up tonight. What would you do if you spotted something moving in your peripheral vision right now? Let me know in the comments below, and remember, some things are better left unwatched.